about democracy, tolerance, and the rule of law, sometimes it's hard to, go deeper and get the concept really in the best way possible. But many a times, many people in very many countries, especially in Africa, leave alone Asia, whose democracy has grown. In Africa and some many parts of the world, democracy has been mistaken to something else. Tolerance has been taken as cowardice kind of a thing. The rule of law has been taken, like in the recent times, rule of law has been compromised in a way that it seems to cater for a certain people, certain clique of individuals, and things like that. Today, and in this very noble program, we are here to discuss this deeper and deeper and know exactly what democracy is, know how tolerance should be embraced, how should we go about the rule of law. My name is Paul Gregory, the host of this program, and together with me is a man, he'll talk about himself, he'll say who he is. We are going to go deeper and deeper and know exactly what democracy is, and especially how should we apply this in our countries in Africa, and precisely where you are. Is democracy an exercise or a lifestyle? What is this democracy? And before wasting a lot of your time, let me welcome and invite the man in studio to give us an insight. Just tell us who you are.
Yes, my name is Apostle Steve.
Oh, yes.
Apostle Steve K.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a born again and minister of the gospel.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Yeah, all the way from Kitui County. Yes. I work with a ministry that is called Temple of Glory.
Temple of Glory.
Yes. Yeah.
Karibu sana. This is taswira ya siasa na uongozi. It literally means an eye, just getting to know what politics and how to go about politics.
Yeah.
Is it part of life? What do you think? Is politics a new good thing?
Yeah, actually, politics is it's part of everyday to-day activities of our life.
Oh, yes.
We cannot detach ourselves from politics,
sure,
because politics is what actually produces everything that you see around.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very well. So that means, as we have said always in this program, is that we cannot run away from politics.
Yeah.
Politics is what gives us. We have a topic today, and we are talking about democracy, and tolerance, and the rule of law. In that flow, I would like you to give us an insight just about what is this democracy, what should we understand by it, and maybe application.
Yeah, to start with, maybe we should go back to the history and look at some of the things that has constituted our society and exactly what we call democracy.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that we need to focus on is we have to understand that Kenya, since 1992, is what we call the multi-party democratic society.
Okay.
And what that means is that now we have a society where things are done in a democratic way. Okay. But when we talk about democracy, then there are characteristics, there are features that forms what we call democracy.
Yes.
When you look at even in our constitution and Article 10, you're going to notice that democracy in Kenya lies on what we call the 7 features. That is what we call the 7 features, or the 7 characteristics of democracy. And one of the things that I think sometimes we have mistaken democracy with sometimes the love of people or an individual that we love.
Okay.
When we talk about democracy, we are talking about things like the freedom of association. We are also talking about things like the freedom of assembly. That's why when you look at what is happening right now in Kenya, you're going to notice that we have a government that is already in place.
Correct.
and then we have an opposition that is also in place. But the mistake that most of the time that happens, I just want to appreciate the way you started putting the Africa in the front of all these topics. The mistake that happens most of the time, we tend to mistaken the opposition with something else. Because in a democratic society where we have the freedom of assembly, we have the freedom of association, we have the right of owning things, we have the right of voting, the right of citizenship. Opposition is not supposed to act as a body that comes to oppose. That is not really what the opposition is supposed to be doing in a democratic society. Where we talk about democracy, there is a difference between opposing and correcting. The opposition is supposed to come in place where it can put now the government in check, where the government is corrected when it's wrong, where the government is corrected when it does things in a way that is not supposed to be done. So in a democratic society, we are not supposed to have all the time the temperature of kind of politics is like we are fighting every day, every now and then. That is not really what a democratic society looks like. But that is what you find in most of African countries. So when we talk about democracy, we have to understand, we have to go back to the history and understand the word democracy. We have to go back to the history and understand the word democracy. The word democracy is an ancient Greek word that is divided into two. It comes from the word demo and then kratos. The word demo simply means the people, and then the word kratos means to rule. So there is no democracy. In fact, what that means is that democracy is all about ruling by the people. So there is no democracy without having the people participating in decision making. But you see, in Africa, most of the time we think that when we have a leader that we love, when we have a leader that we have, committed ourselves to, that leader must make all the decision. And that is a very big mistake. That leader must, whether he is wrong, whether he is right, whichever direction, whichever stand, whichever decision he takes, because of maybe to me, I can take that one as the lack of understanding or the proper understanding of what democracy is. Then we just follow that person. We just do whatever he says, just because blindly, sometimes so blindly. So to me, that is the lack of proper understanding of what democracy is all about. Because if the people are not fully participating in every process that leads into either policy of governing or the system that is going to be constituted, and they just allow the people there, again, you don't forget that the Constitution says that the supreme power is vested on the people. On the people. So if you are ever going to have a democratic society, then people must always come first. People must always come first. But in Africa, it is the politicians who comes first. In Africa, it is the politicians who comes first. Even when you look at the way our modern politics is played, you can tell from the fact that it is the politicians that comes first, and then the followers then follow, which to me that is contrary to what democracy is all about. Yes, because democracy is all about ruling by the people, and if you are not ruling by the people, and the people are not at the center of every decision that is being made, then there is no democracy. Yes.
Very well. I think understanding the word democracy, as you have just said, is demos, people, and kratos, maybe power.
To rule of the power.
To rule. This also goes down to the people, and the people must be involved. And in most of the African countries, speaking of, many countries in Africa, it has been mistaken, as you have just said, that now if the people must speak,
Yeah.
then there are two things here. Then either they must be engineered to
Yeah,
speak,
to speak.
or they must be, you know, either confused or convinced to make a decision.
That decision, yeah.
Did you think the people in Africa and whatever country that the democracy has not yet grown, do you think the people are not well informed, or they have?
I think I've been around some countries of East Africa to speak of our region here. And I've noticed that the majority of people in our region, they are not really exposed into things to do with the leadership and the governance, where actually the politics plays all these parts. When we talk about the politics, again, we are talking about the leaders that we are going to produce, the kind of system of governance that we want in place. I see a lot of insufficiency of information to our people. I see a lot of insufficiency of information to our people, and that is what leads to sometimes you can even see somebody coming up, and even when we talk about vision, that person is visionless. They don't have the vision. But since they have some few coins, you know, in their pocket, then they can even convince people, and the people will follow them in a very bad way. You know, being a leader is not just being able to influence people to follow you. Being a leader is being in a position where you can influence people in a positive way. So our people are not really in a good position. I don't want to really, you know, say that they are not that exposed, but most of our people, or the majority of the people in Africa, their position in politics is not well informed. They are not really well informed. They lack a lot of information. When you look at some countries like I've been in places like Ghana, that is West Africa. There are some places you go in Africa and you find people are so exposed in things to do with the leadership and governance, where an individual can stand today and challenge even the system in place. Just an individual, just a citizen, a voter, you see. Because these people have been, you know, in power, or maybe considering again a nation like Ghana was the first country in Africa to get independence. Some of those places you go and you find people are so much into, you know, wanting to know everything that is happening, whether in the government, whether, like right now we just had an election, and the election was done, and everything just came back to normal. If you ask those people that just voted some few months ago, whether the government in place is doing what exactly they expected or what they pledged to do, when you ask them about the progress in the government and how things are happening, nobody is actually aware of what is happening, or nobody. Sometimes they are not even concerned. Less concerned at all. Less concerned at all. So I see a lot of insufficiency of information, especially in our region, and that means the growth of democracy is being challenged. Yes.
The growth of democracy.
The growth of democracy.
What is this challenging democracy of a country, a grown country? Because if you look at a country like Kenya, somebody stays she's somewhere, and they are, you know, telling us that the country has grown, you know, democratically, talking about the first month, that is January, and now we are in February. Okay, from elections to a few months to maybe today. Somebody will tell you that democracy has grown, but after a few weeks, a few weeks ago, things changed drastically, and it's like now the democracy is not democracy anymore. It is like there is something happening in the world, in the country.
We are now seeing a lot of even assembling here and there, and the kind of discussions. It's as if we are still in the process of having another
somebody
election.
Is bleaching the foundation of democracy itself as a word, you know. Do you think somebody is bleaching this? Now, look at democracy. You're saying it is the power vested
on the people.
On the people. Our Constitution of Kenya has also said that. Now, the people have to speak.
Yeah.
There are two groups here. There is this group that supports the government. There is other group that is opposed to the other side. Still, democracy is about the people. Now, who is who?
Maybe I think I should start by saying we the country like Kenya,
Yes.
Especially here in our place, there is something, when you look at our society, there is something that needs to be corrected. And I say something needs to be corrected because it's a notion that has been around for a long time. For example, we just had an election and the election ended. There were disputes here and there. We have the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land. It sat down, they heard the case, the dispute, they determined, they made a decision, and the ruling was done. But again, you can see when those meetings or the gatherings are called, you can tell from the response that the majority of the Kenyans, of the people outside there, they like that kind of mode. Okay? They like that kind of mode. And then we fail to understand something. Democracy, just the way I started by saying, democracy is not about opposing each other.
No.
Even in a democratic society where you have the majority and the minority. In fact, in that sense, is that for democracy to be democracy, the minority must have their say. And the minority having their say, that one doesn't mean that the government in place or the system that is governing is being opposed. Because in a democratic society, every voice matters. Every voice matters and every opinion matters. Actually, that is the beginning of everything, whether you're going ever to have a development, whether you're going to have a political stability, it has to start with the valuing and considering every voice, every voice. So the tendency where the minority believes that they are being oppressed, the tendency where the minority believes that they are being, mistreated, that attitude is one of the things actually that is killing democracy in our region. Because you're going to get to a point where the people now believe that the government is bad. Even when the government is not bad. The people will stand up believing that something is wrong in the system. And if you ask them, even if you sit down with one of them, that then you ask them, okay, you are following this narrative here and there. What is exactly is wrong with the government? Very few people that will answer that question. Very few people that will answer that question. But again, we have to also appreciate that we have a good system, or maybe we have a leadership that acknowledges God, that is not even bothered with with the happenings around. When you find people that keep on talking too much about what happened, it simply means that there is nothing new that is happening. If people dwell too much on what happened, it's either they have no plan of doing anything new, or completely there is nothing even they are expecting to have in the future. So for this country to move forward and even our society to grow democratically, we have to educate our people, we have to civilize our people, we have to bring our people into a place where even when they speak from the place of understanding and knowledge, not from the place of delusion, and because we are influencing them so that they can do and serve our interest.
Very well.
Yes.
There's a lot that is happening in some people's minds. And in this case, we are talking to, let's see, a younger generation that does not really understand all this. And you realize the generation now, a lot of the young people never ever thought of actually voting, literally. And I want to guess it is because maybe their knowledge of democracy, why they should vote, and all this. But all this comes to, a challenge where now democracy has to be defined in a much deeper way. We have seen that democracy is about the decision.
It's about the decision making.
Yes.
That has to involve the participation of the people. In fact, the beginning of any oppression or any regime that is going to become oppressive is when you have a system that attempts to initiate any process that maybe will lead into a decision that will govern people without letting the people voice out their opinion. If you're going to have that kind of a system that will sit down, and I think that is one of the things that the Supreme Court highlighted when they were determining the case of BBI. When you have a system that comes up with the whatever initiative or whatever process that will eventually lead into a decision that will govern people, and the people are not fully involved, people are not, being allowed to voice out their opinion. At that point, that system has become oppressive. That system has become the enemy of democracy. Maybe the younger generation needs to be told that there is no government without the citizen exercising their right. Because if we talk about the power or the supreme or the sovereign power being vested on the people, it means, and that is exactly what the Constitution says, that they can exercise it directly or indirectly by delegating it to the people that will represent them. And that is actually, I think, the six, that comes, that is what you call the right of voting. After being a citizen, then you have the right of voting. That is, I think, number 6 among from the 7 features of characteristics of democracy. So when you look at the way the young people are responding to these matters of leadership, and especially things to do with the politics, it's very misrepresenting to tell somebody, I want you to vote for me because I'm going to do something to you directly. That is very misrepresenting. Because you don't elect a leader so that they come and serve you alone as an individual. That kind of statement is already misleading. Is misleading. And because of that, I think many young people now, early around 2007, before what happened in 2007, there was a move that really influenced the young people. And the young people were so much into politics from that year 2007. But from that, if you have observed our voting patterns, something drastically changed. And even the numbers began to reduce. Okay?
Correct.
Yes. Because of that expectation where somebody maybe was told, if you vote for me, I'm coming to take you because you're a graduate, I'll get you, I'll give you a job, I'll fix you into this ministry. And people now started having those personal, interests and expectations. When those expectations are not met, then the problem starts from there. When those expectations are not met, the problem starts from there. And I think it's the high time that even the leaders, the political class, the leaders outside there, when we are going outside there, even when we are doing those campaigns, it's very important that we present a message that can not only convince people to vote for us, but also can, raise the understanding of these people so that on their side, as they exercise also their right of voting, at the end, they will know what that leadership is supposed to do into their life. Yes.
What do you think we can do to our people, especially the young people? And democracy has, the education, their awareness about democracy has not gone deeper and deeper to them. They have not understood this. What do you think are the modes that can be used by individuals or organizations, maybe churches or the government can do to bring down the awareness of democracy to the people, especially the young people?
I think in every society, sensitization is very important. Because nobody becomes what they have never either heard or been told. People become what they have been subjected into. And if you want a society like Kenya to become knowledgeable when it comes to things of governance and leadership and the politics, then the leaders have the responsibility of going on the ground there and civilize people, sensitize people. Let the people know that they have a role to play. Let the people know that, for example, I saw, there was a time in my place where I come from, even the governor, used to call those, public participation, whether they're about to make a decision in terms of a certain project. Sometimes they will have those kind of meeting where people now are allowed to come and they participate. Maybe in terms of what is the priority. If we are making a decision maybe to take this money and invest in this, is that what is really needed on the ground? But when you go into those kind of forums, then you realize there are only few people that come. That one tells you that the people do not feel either included or maybe they don't feel like they are the right people to give opinion in those kind of gathering. So at that point now, that's where the leadership comes in place. That's where the leadership comes in place. Being a man of God, I have witnessed a lot of things happening in the community, in the society. And many of those things, or some of those things, we cannot blame the people. We cannot. All things rises and falls in the place of leadership. When something is wrong with the leadership, something will be wrong with the following. Yes. So we need to do something, and the something that we need to do is that every leader, from the political class, even to the clans, anybody that is playing a role of leadership, we need to go on the ground there and bring people into a place where they can understand that they have a role. It is their responsibility, it is their constitutional right to participate on the matters that concerns the affairs of this nation. Yes.
Thank you so much. I think we are getting this. And for those who did not know exactly what democracy is, I think you're somewhere. Maybe just tell us maybe in just a few minutes so that we can move into another topic.
Yes.
What is democracy and what is not democracy?
What is democracy and what is not democracy? Democracy is where people are allowed to participate in whatever that concerns the affairs of the nation. What is not democracy is the opposite of that.
Sure. It is the opposite. I brought this question deliberately, maybe for my viewers to understand, whether if you did cast your vote, then you participated. I want to believe so. I think so. And if you never ever maybe you stayed at home. I think you compromise.
Yeah, because there are some people who say we voted last time, nothing happened. Actually, that's how we participate without participating in either forming a wrong government or a good government. Let me see something here. Democracy, actually, it started all the way again from the Bible or from the scripture. When you study the history of God with his people, you're going to notice that from the scripture, God intended to be the king over his people. God intended to be the king over his people. But the people, there was a day the people arose and they demanded to have a leadership that they can participate in. The people. It was not the God. It was the people who came to the judge of those days, and the judge was Samuel. Judge, he was a priest. Samuel was a priest, he was a judge, and he was also a prophet. Now, it was the people that went to the representative of God, and they said, we want a leadership, we want a system that we the people can participate. So they demanded a king. And actually, that is how the democracy now started from there. From the word go, God never intended to have his people being ruled by systems that can take something from them. God wanted to be the king over his people. And the matter displeased Samuel, and he went before the Lord. And when he prayed, God said, listen to the people. Whatever the people, that's why any leader all leads without listening to the people. That leader very soon is going to find himself irrelevant. Yes. Yes.
So the people must be involved.
The people must be involved. From that day, God said, okay, if the people wants to participate in whatever leadership or system that is going to govern their life, allow them. And that is how now we see the picture of King Saul coming into leadership. And according to the calendar of God, family of Benjamin was not supposed to produce a king. It was from the tribe of Judah that a king was supposed to come. But because the people pressed and the matter became now an urgent matter, then God said, okay, according to my timings, this is not the time that people are supposed to roll themselves or maybe participate in things to do with the leadership. But since the people want to participate, then let us give them the king.
Sure.
And it was now the leader that was in place by that time, Samuel, who came, when you study the scriptures, 1 Samuel chapter number 8 from verses 4 up to verses 7. Then the leader went to the people to explain the manner of kingdom or the king that they are going to have, and how that leadership and the leadership structure is going to function. So the responsibility is always on the leader. And if you don't show the leadership, then the people are going to arise and do whatever they feel or they think is leadership.
Very well.
Yes.
Very well, very well. My friend, we must accept the fact that when we need to do the right thing, we have to go and do it in totality.
Yes.
If you choose to do the wrong thing, remember you are doing it for yourself. So that means what you've just heard from the man of God and the very, very educative guy. I'm learning a lot about this very topic. And when we come back, we want to look at tolerance. Tolerance has been actually an enigma, kind of. It has become a problem to many people because of what is happening today. So that is all about democracy. It is really not all about it, but we are going to learn more and more about it. After this short break, a very short break, we are coming and we shall be deepening ourselves into knowing now how is democracy going to be tolerated? How are we going to tolerate one another? How are we going to embrace one another and live within the democratic, society? After this short break.